If you've got a retrograde planet in your chart, you probably felt it, that feeling of being slow or stuck. Other people are moving forward fast when you feel like you're going round and round in circles. But let me tell you that retrograde planets are not weakness, they are your hidden strengths. Most of the gifted people have one or more retrograde planets in their chart. And if you ask them now if they would like to swap it with the direct planet, I don't think they would want to, because now they know that their retro planet is actually a gift. In this video, I'll show you exactly how each retrograde planet works, and more importantly, how to work with it instead of against it. Welcome back to Path of Radiance. On this channel, we don't just talk about astrology as a tool to predict the future, but instead we use it to understand ourselves more deeply. So what does retrograde planet even mean? Because I think there's a lot of confusion about this. Astronomically, it's just an optical illusion. It's the same like when you're in a car and the car next to you looks like it's moving backwards, but it's actually just going slower than you. That's retrograde. From the Earth's perspective, it looks like the planet is moving backward, but it's not actually reversing its orbit or anything dramatic like that. It's just moving slower than usual. But astrologically, it does make a difference. When a planet is retro in your birth chart, its energy goes inwards instead of expressing outwards. It's like the planet is processing things internally before they manifest externally. And this creates a completely different relationship with that planet's energy. Think of it this way. Most people learn to ride a bike just by getting on and learning as they go. They fall a few times, but then they'll be good to go. But some people need to understand how the bike works, why balance matters, what each muscle does when riding the bike. That's retro energy. It's not slower, it's just about going deeper. Retro planets often represent unfinished karmic business. When I say unfinished karmic business, it doesn't mean that you failed at something in your past life and you're here to repeat it again. Doesn't mean that. It just means that your soul has identified that it wants mastery in this particular area and it wants you to go deeper. I always tell people that retro planets are like having a graduate level course in that planet's area while everyone else is taking a simple online course. The online course might be much faster, but it absolutely cannot have the depth what a 4-year graduate course has. So it's definitely more challenging, but the depth of understanding you gain is the gift. And once you really get it, you become almost like a teacher in that area of life. What has been your experience with your retro planet? Let me know. I'm curious to hear your real life experience of it. Also, I want to thank you for being part of my YouTube channel. This is a brand new channel and your support encourages me to create content like this. So thank you for subscribing and liking this video. Retrograde planets love patterns. What does that mean? It means that the same situations keep showing up until you really get the lesson. You know how some people keep attracting the same type of relationship drama? Or how certain emotional patterns keep repeating in your life, just dressed up as a different person. Retro planets also bring people into your life with whom you have some unfinished business. These planets don't move in straight lines, they work in spiral. What does spiral mean? It means that you think you figured something out, but then 6 months later, you have this new situation again, asking you to go even more deeper into the experience. And it's not because you haven't learned the lesson the previous time. So this is a misconception people have that, oh, it's because I didn't learn my lesson, that's why I have to do it again. No. That can also happen, by the way, but even if you did learn the lesson, it's back again because now it wants you to go even more deeper and there are so many more layers to it. Let's say you have Venus retrograde and you're working on self-love. You might have this realization about your worth, feel really good about it, and then you start setting boundaries with people, and And then suddenly you are in a situation which again tests those boundaries in a way you didn't expect. So even though all the self-work you did was great, there is more to be done. It's like the universe is showing you a new angle that you can work on. The key here is not to resist it. It's already in your chart, and that means that those repeated experiences will come into your life. There's no point resisting it. So let yourself learn and relearn. The spiral path looks slower, but it is more thorough. Let's take Shah Rukh Khan's chart as an example. He has Saturn retrograde in his 7th house, which is the house of public image and fame. And having Saturn retro in 7th house means that he didn't get fame instantly or through traditional paths. He had to work hard for years. He started his career through TV serials, which most other celebrities would never do. But because he was very disciplined and consistent with that, ultimately he went on to become the king of Bollywood. His status was unshakable. That is what Saturn retrograde gives. The results are slow, but they are solid. Before we go into individual planets, let's talk about how to work best with retrograde energy. The key thing here is don't try to force retrograde planets to act like direct planets. That's like trying to make a left-handed person write with their right hand. It's possible, but it's not natural and it doesn't produce the best results. Instead, work with the natural rhythm of retrograde energy. That means allowing for longer processing times. If you have Mercury retrograde, for example, don't rush into decisions without thinking them through. If you're Venus retrograde, don't force yourself to love things just because other people do. If you have Mars retrograde, don't feel guilty about needing time to think before you act. Retrogrades often have delayed but lasting results. While direct planets might give you quick wins that fade away quickly, retrograde planets build slowly but create lasting change. Retro planets work in spirals, so you might find that certain themes come up repeatedly in your life. Don't see this as a failure, see it as an advanced course. Each time the theme returns, you are ready for a deeper level of understanding. Retro planets are not obstacles, they are asking you to turn inwards, learn slowly, and live with depth instead of speed. When you accept and embrace this journey, you will gain wisdom that no book, no teacher could ever give you. Your retro planets didn't choose you to make life harder for you. They chose you because they know that you can handle going deeper in that area. They're like your spiritual assignments, and completing them makes you wise in those areas. If you're Mercury retrograde, one thing is for sure is that you will have a very high mental activity. You rehearse conversations in your head for days and you overthink things and you're constantly thinking about 100 different things all the time. There's this constant internal dialogue always, and it can feel overwhelming. But what you need to understand is that your mind processes information differently than other people. While most people think out loud or figure things out through conversation, you do your processing internally first. Mercury retrograde people often become the most thoughtful communicators once they trust their process. You choose your words carefully, you consider multiple perspectives, you think about how your words land with the other person. These are actually incredible gifts in a world where people often speak without even thinking. The challenge is that you might second guess yourself constantly, and you might replay conversations over and over, wondering if you said something wrong, or you might completely avoid speaking up because you're afraid of being misunderstood. But that internal processing is actually making you a more thoughtful person. Mercury retrograde people learn best through unconventional methods or by making mistakes and redoing things. So it's okay to make mistakes, just trust that you're getting better at it. If you have Mercury retrograde, what helps is, instead of feeling frustrated with all that internal mental activity, You have to learn to lean into it. Write down your thoughts in a journal. Just get all those thoughts out into a paper without editing or judging them. And also practice listening more than talking. This actually grounds Mercury's energy and makes you feel more centered. And trust that your mind's need to double check everything is creating depth, not problems. If you want me to make a separate detailed video on Mercury Retrograde, let me know. Venus Retrograde is about learning to love yourself in a world that taught you to look for love everywhere else. You might find yourself in complicated relationship patterns or struggling with self-worth. You idealize love, or you're never sure what you actually value versus what you think you should value. There can be this pattern where you give too much in relationships and then feel resentful about it. Or you attract people who are emotionally unavailable and then you wonder why love is so hard. You might have this fantasy of perfect love, but real relationships feel disappointing to you compared to what you imagined. And even with money and values, there's often confusion about what you actually want versus what looks good to others. You might buy things to fill an emotional void and then feel guilty about it. Or you might undervalue yourself at work and then struggle financially. The real work for a Venus retrograde person is turning inward first. Practice receiving love without feeling guilty or feeling like you need to earn or work for it. Learn to say no without over-explaining or feeling bad about yourself. And surround yourselves with things that you value genuinely, not what you think you should like or what's trendy. Venus retrograde is teaching you that love starts from within you, not from external validation. And once you really get that, you will become magnetic in a completely different way. If you want me to make a detailed video on Venus retrograde, let me know. And Mars retrograde can feel like having the gas pedal and brake pressed at the same time. You might suppress anger, be passive aggressive, or struggle to act on your desires. There's always this inner conflict about ambition or sexuality or what you actually want versus what you think you should want. With Mars retrograde, there's often this pattern where you either explode with anger or you completely suppress it. You might even struggle with assertiveness. Either you'll be too aggressive or you can't stand up for yourself at all. It's always these extremes. And with sexuality and desire, there can also be a lot of confusion about what you actually want versus what you think is acceptable. Career-wise, you might struggle with competition or feel like you're not ambitious enough. You see other people going after what they want directly, and you often think that why you have to think so much before making the decision. Because with Mars retrograde, you struggle or hesitate in taking initiative. That's the thing about Mars retrograde. The solution is channeling your energy constructively. Channel all that Mars energy into activities like working out or martial arts or any kind of movement that lets you feel your own power. You basically need to get all that energy out. It's very important to move your body daily because Mars energy needs physical expression, and when it's retrograde, it builds up internally, so you need to channel it out. Your Mars retrograde is teaching you conscious action instead of reactive behavior. You're learning to act from choice rather than impulse, which is actually very powerful once you master it. If you want me to make a detailed video on Mars retrograde, let me know in the comments below. Jupiter retrograde makes you question everything about beliefs and wisdom. Traditional spiritual paths might not resonate with you, and teachers might disappoint you. There'll be this pattern where you're drawn to spiritual teachings, but then you find some flaws in them or the teachers disappoint you. You might go through a period of being really interested in a particular philosophy and then completely rejecting it because you find some flaw in it. Jupiter retro people question everything because they have this internal and ongoing search for truth. With higher education, you might struggle with traditional education systems or feel like you can learn better on your own, which is probably true. You might always be skeptical of experts or authority figures, and you prefer to figure out things on your own than learning from others. Now, for people who are used to following norms, they might look at you like you're weird, But what you have is a gift. You're creating your own belief system. Explore different philosophies, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Read material from experts, but as an inspiration, not as rules that you have to follow. Jupiter Retro is teaching you that real wisdom comes from within you, not from external authorities. You're developing your own relationship with the divine, and that's very valuable, even though it can feel isolating at times. If you want me to make a detailed video on Jupiter retrograde, let me know. With Saturn retrograde, there's usually this pattern where you reject all structure, or you create such rigid structures that doesn't actually serve you. You might struggle with self-discipline, or you might be so disciplined that you forget to enjoy life. And you'll often have this inner critic in your head that's way harsher than any other external authority. With career and reputation, you might struggle with traditional paths. You see other people following conventional paths to success, and you wonder why you need to do everything the hard way. Saturn retrograde people might experience repeated blocks, frustrations, or slow progress in the areas ruled by Saturn and the house it occupies. It can be very frustrating when this happens, but you need to remember that slow progress is not failure. It is actually deep mastery. You need to accept that your success might be delayed, but what you're building is solid and unshakable. Someone else might get quick success, but what you will get is long-lasting success. If you want me to make a detailed video on Saturn Retro, let me know.